Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Black Briefing Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Samantha Douglas.
I'm Wild Style for Show.
Wild Style for Show. We got for show in the building. And we also are honored to have with us Miss Tamara Winfrey Harris. Hello. We need fake applause. So we wanted to bring you on, one, because we know the Women's Fund Foundation has exciting news, but really just honored to introduce you to our community, broader community, and to let them learn more about you. So super excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm honored to finally be in this seat.
I know, right?
Yes.
So we're going to jump right into it. I know usually we spend a little time talking about how we are or whatever, but we're a little tight on time today. So we're going to jump into it. But I do want to start with you just telling us about you, because I was telling you as you came in, goofy me did not even know certain very big things about you. But tell us about you, about Tamara.
It all started on a fall morning. I'm a native of Gary, Indiana.
Okay,
Yay, GI, but I've lived here since 2004. I'm the president of Women's Foundation of Indiana. Most of my career has been working in communications and marketing. Philanthropy is new to me in the last decade. I moved here to lead marketing communications at the Eiteljorg Museum.
Oh, wow.
I worked there for 12 years before coming to Central Indiana Community Foundation and then the Women's Foundation. I have also been a writer and a speaker who focuses on issues of race and gender and how they intersect with politics and pop culture and current events. Yeah. And so I've had the opportunity to write for the New York Times and the Atlantic and to publish 3 books specifically about the experiences of Black women and girls.
Yes, that's what I love. Y'all, I did not know that Tamara was a writer. I know. Don't throw the darts. I feel it. I feel it. But that is incredible. I was so excited when I was doing my homework on you and reading more about you. I was so excited. And I'm so excited to download your books in my Audible so I can start reading, listening.
I got to say, the person who did my audios, especially on the first 2 books, amazing.
Oh, I can't wait.
It made me listen to it going, ooh, who wrote that? That's good.
Oh, but, I can't wait.
I mean, that is also why this feels like my dream job, because I was telling you and Wild earlier, a lot of us, I think, have a side hustle. You have your 9 to 5, and then you have your 5 to 9. Yes. That's your passion that you try to nurture. I think a lot of women do that. And so finally, my passion working with women gets to be what I do every day.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. I love that. And it's kind of a first segue to our first question, which is the Women's Foundation or the Women's Fund has recently expanded and across all of Indiana, and it's on its own now, correct? It was under. So explain that, because I know it's a little confusing for folks. Yeah. You were a part of something. Now you guys are kind of standalone. Let us know how that works and why this was the right time for that.
So let me give you a little history lesson.
Yeah.
So we were founded in 1996. So this is our 30th anniversary. February was our 30th anniversary. We were founded by a bunch of women who cared here in Central Indiana, but our primary founding mother was Dr. Diane Brashear. So she was a professor of obstetrics, gynecology, and sexual health at Indiana University. Okay. And she was concerned about 3 things. She felt like women and girls serving organizations were not getting enough support and funding in Central Indiana. It's not something that has changed in 30 years. Right. She felt like women were hitting a glass ceiling in working in Central Indiana businesses. And she also felt that women weren't seen as philanthropists despite all that we give. And she wanted to change that. So she got together with a group of women, founded the Women's Fund of Central Indiana, which at the time was a fund of the Indianapolis Foundation, and eventually a fund of CICF, because we are regional. So for 30 years, we have funded organizations in Marion County and the 8 counties around it. More than $10 million, more than 500 organizations. 2026 is very different from 1996, but not in enough ways.
Right.
True.
Women and girls are still supremely vulnerable and
Yes.
very vulnerable in this state. We have some of the worst infant mortality rates
Yep.
in the country
Yes.
and in the Western world.
Yes.
Some of the worst. And that hits predominantly very much Black women. Black
Yep.
women, Black babies are the ones who are dying. We have some of the worst domestic violence rates in the country. We have some of the lowest power rates, the power index that comes
Yeah.
out for women every year. Indiana's ranked number 43. 60% of evictions in Marion County
Yes.
are single women. Across the state, women and girls are very vulnerable. And unfortunately, even though women and girls are 52% of the central Indiana population, we are not a minority. We are a marginalized minority,
Yeah.
marginalized majority.
Yeah.
We only get 1.9% of all U.S. philanthropic giving, and women and girls of color get 0.5%.
Wow.
Animals get 3%.
Oh
you
my
any
God.
So there's a lot of work to do, and unfortunately not enough people who are doing that work on behalf of women and girls. So now, after 30 years, we are an independent, standalone, nonpartisan organization. We have our own 501c3.
Okay.
We were part of CICF as a
Yes.
subfund. We have our own 501c3, and we serve all 92 counties in
Wow.
Indiana as the Women's Foundation of Indiana. But I
Love
should
that.
say we are
That's
still
beautiful.
part of a philanthropic collaborative
Yeah.
with the Indianapolis Foundation and Hamilton County and all of the other organizations that have been part of the CICF family.
Okay.
And we are very we would not be in a place to be who we are today had it not been for the way that the Indianapolis Foundation and CICF incubated us
Yeah.
over 30 years.
And tell us the benefits of you all still being in a collaborative with them. Like, tell us the benefits of that kind of collaborative.
Well, it's better for the community when funders work together.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity when at the end of the year, we were trying to figure out how to best support. We had a bunch of scholarship recipients at Martin University who were suddenly left, 22 women who were suddenly left without a university in only a few weeks to figure out
Yeah.
what they were going to do. And we wanted to make sure they had money to keep going forward. So we built a resilience fund, and we were so the Indianapolis Foundation was the first organization to step up and say, yes, we will contribute to that. And there are a lot of other fund holders at IF and CICF who said, let us step in and contribute to that as well, so that those women can not only have scholarships to move forward in the next year, but we can help them move forward, get re-enrolled, and some of them into certificate programs. So that's the kind of working together to co-invest in things and solve problems that's a lot easier to do when funders are in relationship and are working with each other.
It's so to think about all of these statistics, it's what makes it to me like super just disrespectful, really, is that none of us would be here without women.
Yeah.
It is. You would think women's issues would be universally, like just based on logic, that they would be universally important.
And we won't be anywhere without women.
Right.
Like that.
Right. That is,
And we are
crazy.
half of the population,
Yes.
more than half in
More
Central
than
Indiana.
half.
So any community that's not working for women and girls, it's just not working.
Facts.
It's not working for
Yeah.
half the population.
Half the population.
Facts.
That's bad. That's
facts.
obviously failing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So much of me wants to sit in that. So much of me wants to sit in everything that you just said. I get twice as much as going to animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is y'all.
Yeah.
Oh my,
But I think very, very often people don't understand intersection.
yeah.
And so in the same way that I know you've been doing a lot of work getting people to see the issues that face society through the lens of race, because race very much impacts how you're going to be seen, you know, by the government, by potential employers, your experiences. So does gender.
Yes.
So if you're not looking at issues through the lens of gender, then you're missing. We always say when women thrive, families and communities thrive, because women are generally charged with caretaking for communities and for families, and we tend to put back into communities. So when we're doing okay, when mama's okay, everybody's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead.
I mean, and I mean, that's a dynamic. How do y'all flesh that out in the collaborative? You got CICF itself as the regional umbrella with Indianapolis Foundation, Women's Foundation, and Hamilton County Foundation, but women make up at least half the population of all of that service area, and y'all have all of Indiana. And when you look at issues like evictions here in Marion County, it's women that are, and particularly single mothers.
60% are single mothers.
Like how? Yeah. What can you like? What is the collaborative process about discussing that? Because it's not just a women's foundation issue. Indianapolis Foundation, you know, has to look at stuff like that. But how does that work where y'all try to tackle these issues together?
Well, that's why it's exciting for me. That's why I like being part of the collaborative, so that we can come in and say, how can we work alongside you to look at some of these issues? We just did last week. We worked with the Indianapolis Foundation, brought in a woman called Dr. Unique Redwood, who wrote the book, White Women Cry and Call Me Angry, about working in philanthropy. And we had a showing of her film. I don't know how much I can say because it's still going to some festivals, I think, but it's about Black women and weathering, the effects of weathering on our lives. And those are the kind of things we can do. We have all of these other philanthropic partners that may be more geographically based, or they may be like the Senior Fund, focused on more age groups, but they all intersect with women. You know, and for us, you touched on one thing, Wild Style, that's going to be our issue as we go. One of the reasons we wanted to go statewide is a lot of the issues that women and girls are facing are systemic.
Yes.
And a lot of those aren't going to be solved on a systemic level because we gave a $25,000 grant to an organization in Marion County or Hamilton County. That's good. We're still doing good work, but some of these are like we can't philanthropy our way out of some of them. A lot of these are policy issues, and if you're not doing advocacy, and if you're not looking at how these look across the state, then you're not going to solve the problem. And so we realized in order to do more, we did in 2023, we did kind of our biggest organizational assessment. We did focus groups. You talked to the community. We did a landscape analysis, and women said, we need more engagement. We need more full-throated and bold advocacy. And kind of the only way you can do that is statewide, even if we know that we may be looking at specific issues in different regions or areas. Because how these issues play out will look differently you know, in, say, Marion County and Henry County and Lake County, you know?
Right.
I mean, and I like what you said about policy, because I think, I know I've described some of these things. Charity is funding a soup kitchen. But philanthropy looks at, okay, yes, we're funding the soup kitchen, but why are we funding more and more soup kitchens every year? What is the systemic issue?
Why do we need soup kitchens?
We need to tackle it on why we keep funding soup kitchens, why these are needed. And I think with y'all expanding statewide, like y'all can address that, because there's certain stuff at Marion County, as we've seen, like the state legislature preempts a lot of things with cities. And so, you can address symptoms here in Marion County, but sometimes that's a broader conversation about. Oftentimes about what they're doing at the State House and how they view things.
And sometimes when we look at things geographically, it's really easy for people to think that problem is those people over there. Like we talk about food insecurity, and we know that of the state, a lot of food deserts are in Marion County, right? but there's some northern Hamilton County, also a food desert.
Yep.
So how can we get people thinking about this isn't a over there, this isn't a, oh, those people in the urban area or those people out there in the rural area. It's an everybody problem.
Yes.
So how do we look at the ways it's showing up differently for all of us? We talked about maternal and infant mortality. We know that almost a half of Black and brown women don't get first trimester care.
Wow.
Yep.
And that may be more of an issue here in like Marion County or Lake County. But we also know that about a quarter of our counties in Indiana don't have obstetric service.
Right.
And that is more an issue in rural counties.
Yes.
We don't want any babies dying.
Yes.
Not in Indianapolis and not in, some of our smaller towns. So how do all women invest in that issue?
Right.
And make it better.
It kind of highlights. So when we were talking about all of these hospitals losing funding when this current administration came in, one of the alarms that a lot of us was raising was like, yes, we're going to feel the impacts of that in the big cities, right? Yes, we will feel that. But these rural areas are going to lose like their only hospital.
Yes.
Right.
Like their only access. Right. Like we're talking specifically about OBs and things, but it's like general health period too. Like they are losing access to healthcare period. So it's like increasing, like I can't just bring in OBs. I'd have to bring in full health systems. So it's like for them to think that this isn't just gonna help, this is only just for them. It's like it's impossible to do. It's impossible to do. If we need specialized care, we need first care in general. And so it's like if we were to advocate for specialized care, that also means that we're advocating
everybody
for everybody. Right. Everybody gets these things. It drives me crazy that we, I before we started recording, we talked a little bit about, I was saying, I feel like a little piece of that is we lack personal responsibility and like the greater push for just progress, and I wonder, it kind of takes me back. This whole time you were talking, honestly, I was thinking about just certain things I've learned, especially in the last, several years or whatever, not from schools or not from, anywhere where I should have learned these things, but how even things that impact women are not studied the same way as things that impact men. They are not, like, we don't even have research. The way that I was learning about them, they tested pads with water. It's like,
they didn't know any women.
Crash test dummies are made based on men's bodies and men's body size.
Yes.
So,
I was thinking it is I said this about politics last night. We got to play the long and short game, right? We have to push for change that happens right now so that we don't keep going on a, terrible trajectory. But at the same time, there is this slow burn, longer thing, like our education around women's issues has to be better, so that people know to advocate. Because when I think about what we learned in school, we learned about like suffrage and stuff like that. Generally, we didn't learn that deep. We learned about feminism maybe a little bit, but we don't really do a deep dive on just how bad these systems play a negative role in women's lives.
And I think sometimes women don't talk about it because we've been encouraged, and I think, to be quiet and be pleasing and put other people's needs ahead of our own, most especially Black women.
Yes.
Because of the stereotypes that have followed us.
Yes.
And the mammy stereotype and the sapphire stereotype and the strong Black woman framing that we just carry on and keep on going. And so, I'm hearing women right now saying, I didn't know women couldn't get their own mortgages or credit cards and things sent until like the 70s. And they're like, what? Well, because our moms never told us that.
Yes.
They just made a way out of no way, and they figured out what they needed to do.
Because that was all they knew.
Right.
Like they didn't have the comparison to realize how wrong, like, hold on, this is what, like, I think that every time I go and experience something like somewhere else in our country, in the world, it's just like, hold on, they do that?
Right.
Like the first time the first time they told me that there was states who sent absentee ballots to everybody every year, period. Yeah. I was like, we could do that,
right?
Like we didn't. That there's not these little restrictive windows, the 6 to 6 window, a single day to vote, or like all of these issues, I feel like we don't know until there's some level of like discovery in like comparison. So I guess I was getting to, what do you think the biggest systemic barriers are for like women's issues in our state and for us making progress in that way?
I'm going to answer that, but I'm also going to refuse to answer that.
Okay.
And I say that because, so I know what the largest issues are. So when we did that listening, women told us, we asked them, what should we be working on? What are the things that are most important to you? And this is talking to women in central Indiana. So let's say the 8-county area. They said health was far and away far and away. And underneath health, it was reproductive health, number one, mental health, number two.
Yes.
And not just mental health for women. Women were very concerned about the mental health of girls.
Yes.
Especially coming out of COVID,
Yep.
you know. Economic mobility, which should surprise no one.
No one.
Girls' empowerment, again, concern for what's going on with girls and adolescents and how they're moving into womanhood. Personal safety, intimate partner violence.
Yes.
Were the areas. Now, the part where I refuse to answer that, I know those are the main. I don't expect, knowing the stats that I shared at the top, that as we move around the state, anyone's going to say, oh, no, reproductive health isn't a problem in our county.
Right.
But we don't know what those issues look like. We've spent 30 years getting to know women in 8 counties. And I would say, candidly, I think in many ways we've known women in Marion County better than some of those collar counties. But I don't know, as I said, Lake County is not Jasper County, is not Allen County, is not. And so one of the things we have committed to is we will not speak on behalf of women until we have listened to women.
I love that.
Which is why I hesitate to say, oh, here's exactly what we need to do, because I haven't talked to any women in Jeffersonville that's down on the Kentucky border.
Because there's 92 counties.
Like. There are 92 counties.
92.
So we are kicking off, we're doing 2 things this year. One, we're working with a fantastic researcher named Cindy Collier, and she is pulling well-being data for all 92 counties on women well-being. Women specifically because Girl Scouts and IYI do a wonderful Indiana Girl Report. So we have county by county data for girls, but we want to match that with women. And by the beginning of next year, that will be on our website. So you will be able to go on and look up your county, pull that down, and see well-being data for women. But we also know that data doesn't tell the whole story.
Right.
In fact, there are many places where data just ignores part of our lives.
Yep.
Sometimes just because we're women. It may not even be disaggregated as gender. So we also want to talk to women. So we're kicking off an 11-city listening tour. That kicks off on May 12th in Gary, Indiana, my hometown.
Love that.
At the Aquatorium. So I don't know when this is going to run, but I hope you'll go to our website. So we're going to do Gary, South Bend, Fort Wayne. Let me see if I can get them all. Terre Haute, Franklin, Anderson, Bedford, Indianapolis, Jeffersonville.
Jeffersonville. Yes, Evansville.
So you've got literally
we're going all around into the bottom. And that's obviously not the end of our listening. We're not going to visit 11 cities. But we need to know what's happening with women from those women before we know how we need to show up and where we need to show up.
I love that. And do you guys, so outside of those listening sessions, do you guys have other ways where women from other areas can still contribute and like give information, or is it only in those sessions?
In those sessions to begin with. Okay. And we're also telling, we're very easy to find. Yeah. Our emails, all of that are right on our websites because we feel like we're going to have to be spending time in those areas. We know we have I'm excited for the first time, we have a director of statewide community engagement, Alyssa Emping. Yes. She's going to be all around this state learning those organizations. We have a senior community leadership officer, Kelly Doucette. She's going to be around the state learning not-for-profits that are in those areas. Who's doing the work? How are they doing the work? How do we need to fund them? As we get out of Marion County, we got a lot of not-for-profits in Marion County. Doesn't look like that in a lot of more rural counties. So what does it look like to support work there as a 501c3? We need to figure all of those things out.
Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, it gets the rural counties, I think, cities get the blame for having all the problems, but rural counties have almost all the same problems, but they don't have the infrastructure, when you're
to even talk about it.
Yeah. Fiscal agents they don't have the nonprofits, and they also don't have many fiscal agents that can help them.
Right.
They just don't have that type of philanthropic infrastructure. So that's definitely a challenge, that y'all have to take by case basis, I'd imagine.
And one day we hope to be big enough to have a presence in those areas, or to have ambassadors in those areas, because we can't serve the state from one office on Alabama Street in Marion County.
Right.
So, at some point we want to be able to say, we've got a grants officer in Northwest Indiana or Southeast Indiana, so that we can be more embedded in those communities. And we're also not coming to usurp anybody's work.
Right.
Whether you've heard of them or not, there are a lot of grassroots organizations, small funders, other women's giving circles that are doing work in those areas. So what we want to come and say is, how can we help? Not how can we show up from your capital city and tell you what you should have been doing all along.
Right.
That's not what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah. And I know that as someone who comes from Gary, Indiana, who often feels like people show up. We know how people feel around the state.
We've got the answer to your problems in Gary.
The answer to your problems.
Never lived here, but and I like the plan. Full transparency. I'm an Indianapolis Foundation ambassador, and one of the things is that we do is try to direct the organization, philanthropy, to come alongside, not to go set up over here and do the same thing as people in the community have been trying to get done for 20 years and just didn't have the resources, but to come alongside, let work together.
One of my favorite analogies, and I actually told this to Lorenzo specifically, I was like, you'll come up to us as community leaders and we're all battered and bruised, eyes swollen, can barely hold it together, and we're trying to build a sandcastle, and you'll look at us and say, oh, let me help you build that sandcastle. And it's like, I could build the dang sandcastle if you'd help me. Like, if you would help me, then I can build the sandcastle.
Where's your date on that sandcastle?
Right. And did you feel that you turned in the report on time?
It was like, what are we talking about right now? And how much do we have to overlook to say something so out of touch?
But how much value? I mean, that's why it's really looking at IF's ambassador program, that we need that, because how valuable were the ambassadors at the time. I was COVID. I was overseeing the grant making for the Indianapolis Foundation, and having you guys who were on the ground who could say, oh, this person, this community center wants money for COVID recovery, but they're not even open.
Right.
And we know that because we're in the community and we're going, and they're not there. And you need someone embedded in the community to tell you that.
Yes, and you also need them to tell you, the people who are like, listen, they're killing themselves for free. We give them the resources, and they're definitely going to be doing great
work. They're going to do twice as much.
Yes. I actually got a grant, a small grant from the Women's Fund. It was 3 years ago, I think, 3 years ago, but I was doing women's mental health thing with the Lover League and doing retreats and stuff. But with $15,000 in 9 months, we had 2 retreats, multiple DIY studios. So we were doing art things and candle making, things like that. But I think we reached 60 unduplicated women with $15,000 in those months. But it was because we had already been doing this work for the previous, I don't even know how many years. We had already been doing that work. And so it was like gasoline on a fire, and it just, it exploded the work. Then, your girl was just exhausted. So I had to take a step back. But I think about those kind of situations though, where we throw away millions and millions and millions of dollars to these holes, to these buckets that are just very run of the mill, cookie cutter, situations. And that, I guess, like, how do you see philanthropy moving more intentionally so that we're actually like moving the needle and not just funding like program after program that's kind of like dead end?
Well, one thing is we have to listen. I mean, it comes back to that community piece so that we're actually, I mean, very often it's very easy to show up as an expert because, I mean, on the one hand, one of the things I was going to say is it's important to be, you have evidence-based data, especially now, because, people will question why you're focusing on this population. What does identity matter? What does, but I can show you the data that says these are the populations that are most vulnerable. And so we need to focus there.
Yes.
So that's part of it. But that alone doesn't help. Well, we were just talking about that. It doesn't help the nuances of community just because you have the numbers in front of you. Yep. And that's where it's important to understand. I know that women and girls already know the solutions to their problems. They know what they need.
Yes.
They don't often have the resources and support to actually enact those. And that is why, women's funds and foundations are often the first funders. We were the first funder to Dress for Success when they were in a church basement. And now look at them. Yeah. I think we were the first funder for Deborah's Place. Shout out to Dr. Jessica Braden, who's doing amazing stuff. Because people 1.9%. So especially organizations that are led by women, especially women. We know that leaders of color of not-for-profits raise less money. So you look at both of those things combined together, you're seeing a lot of people who may know exactly how to solve an issue, but that don't have the support and backing to solve that issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that like philanthropy is moving with enough urgency, especially like in the when I saw everything coming down, especially from the administration, and we didn't know exactly what this administration was going to do, but we knew generally we were going to see a lot of cuts and things like that, right? And I was disappointed and I still am, in the response I've seen from philanthropy, like knowing that we would need you so much.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a statement or a question. I love that you jumped to no so quickly. But like, what are your thoughts on it? Like, how do we? Do you see us getting better? Like, do you see something happening that's like, okay, we're behind, or we were slow to respond, but we're going to be better in this back half of this administration? Or like,
well, I think, and I know you've heard this before. I think one of the issues that everybody in the funding community is talking about is the best use of endowments. Yeah. And so right now, when there's so much need in communities, why there are funders who are sitting on large endowments and not releasing them. Yeah. So it's like seeing because generally the way we act legally, 5%, you have an endowment and you use 5% and you put that in the community. And part of that is so we can fund things in perpetuity, and we want to be able to fund things in perpetuity. However, it's really hard when you're looking out and people are starving and you're saying, but I have to hold on to these millions of dollars so that I can fund people 30 years from now. And so, one of the things I loved, we went to, there is a women's funding movement actually that we are part of. It kicked off like in the 80s and 90s. And it's founded based on feminist funding principles. So you will hear a lot of women's funds and foundations talking about them. And one of them is, we went to this conference and the first big keynote was don't sit on your assets.
Right.
And it was about moving money out of your endowment into the community. And one of the things that Women's Fund did at the end of 2024, our board said, one, we're going to commit to putting $1 million into the community every year. And that required us to dip into our endowment. Good. So our board said, we will allow you to take from your endowment for 3 years so that you can support this expansion and get more money into the community at a time when the community really needs it. Are we being fiscally responsible? Yes, we are, because we have continued to fundraise, and what we have found is people really want to fund the work.
Yes.
And so we are finding partners who are saying, yeah, we'll come alongside you. We were very excited. Anthem came alongside us to allow us to make our first grants outside of Central Indiana last year. So that's important. But our board said, we will allow you to dip into your endowment. We know you're being smart. We are confident our endowment will be back above $10 million in 5 years, but we need to take out of it right now in order to provide for women in the community.
There's presidents, CEOs, and executive directors all over the state that are so jealous of you with your board right now.
Well, look, and I should say this, it is a privilege to have an endowment of the size that we do, because most women's funds don't, and a lot of not-for-profits don't. But if we have it, we're going to make the best use of it for our constituency and not just sit on it so that we survive and our community of women don't.
And I mean, it sounds like you got a great board. I think one of the complaints I have with philanthropy in this time it's been so much about self-preservation. Well, what do we do? Well, we just need to write it out. And it's like, people are not writing it out, and people are not surviving. And your job is to, like, your whole focus. Somebody oftentimes died 100 years ago to create this organization so that you could take care of the people, and you're only worried about self-preservation. So it sounds like y'all are taking that charge serious. Like, it's about right now. And I understand, you have to build for the future, but so I don't think all the boards are like your board.
But the other side of that is being fiscally responsible, but also getting into advocacy. Because at the end of the day, as we said, we could all empty our endowment. Like, we could have just said, oh, here's the loss of money. We could all empty our endowments, and then there'd just be no money, and we'd still have the problem.
Yes.
So there is that too. Strategy. So it's a balance.
Yeah.
You know, it's a balance.
Is there, because I know we talked about how we are also terribly ranked as a state, like nationwide. So, like, is there a model across the country that you guys have really been looking at or leaning on that you feel like works well?
Well, we do know that there's an Institute for Women's Policy Research, and they keep a report card for each of the states. They look at levers like economic mobility, reproductive health, education, civic engagement, kind of all the levers of, like, how the community is doing. Indiana gets a D. There's only civic participation. We have a C. So I think that's what
bumped us from the F.
That's what bumped us up. But we look at some other states that are doing well for women. They tend to be on the coast, and in the Midwest, they tend to be across the north. So Minnesota, who has a very wonderful, strong statewide women's foundation.
Yes.
So Minnesota, some of those states across the top are the ones that are doing better, but they tend to be on the California. They tend to be on the coast.
Has that been so? Because I know, and you guys should look into Minnesota, by the way, because they are a very good example, because they had a supermajority and they flipped it. And I know we're not talking politics. I am. This is just me. But I was gonna ask, is that something that has been new or something that they've done well for a long time now in Minnesota?
The Minnesota, they've been doing it for a while. At least their women's foundation, I know, they were the very first statewide women's foundation.
Okay.
And those women there are amazing. It's led by Gloria Perez, who leads that one. And I believe they're taking the lead. They have taken the lead on some emergency response in the Twin Cities right now, because as a women's foundation, they know how to move money fast.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love hearing that, because I think for me it's encouraging, because I think a lot of folks get discouraged about how conservative our state is, and oftentimes it doesn't lead to good outcomes for women. And so it's encouraging to hear that even when they were in the kind of phase we're in now, that they were still effectively serving women and building and preparing for the time that they get to have now, where they have a much more balanced representation.
And statewide gives us an opportunity, because we say we represent women in all the ways they show up in the world. So can we get, some of us may be conservative, some of us may be progressive, but can we agree that we won't want babies die?
Exactly.
And if we agree there, then what does it need to make that happen? Can we all agree that all mothers and babies need to be able to make decisions with the full range of health decisions with their doctor? And can we agree that their health care should be affordable and that they ought to be able to pay for child care and they should get enough time off and their children should not live in poverty? Can we just all agree on that and then figure out how to do it? We may not all agree on how to get there, but can we agree on that?
Right.
And that doesn't have to be a Democrat or Republican issue.
As a matter of fact, that's one of the things we heard in a focus group when we were doing this in 2023 is stop participating in the politicization of women's issues.
Yep.
Everybody else wants to make our issues, our reproduction, all of these things a political issue. It is not. It is our lives. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I am on the side of women and the data that explains their lives and what they say about their lives. That is who we advocate for.
And I mean, like we are the Black Briefing, and we talk about some of these issues with just the Black community. Is that neither one of the parties are doing a great job of Black issues.
Last night, so we were at the Chat and Chew last night. It was me and Whitley Yates, and obviously Whitley is a Republican, and I am a Democrat. However, like I think if you talk to any of us, we'll tell you, oh, we're Black first. We're Black women first, more specifically, because none of these institutions have served our community well.
I mean, it's not women and girls issues get 1.9% from Republicans, but Democrats are giving them all the money.
Exactly.
Like it's not like we get 1.9% of all U.S. from everybody. So we want everybody to pay attention to our issues, especially in this, this is a majority Republican state. And so we need to reach Republican women and Republican legislatures and decision makers so that they know what's happening we want to talk to everyone.
And I'm gonna try to steer clear, make sure you don't get in
I'm definitely not trying to.
But I mean, the state has shown that it's not done a good job with women's issues. But then even locally, when we look at how we've handled homelessness and evictions in this city, and we have a Democratic supermajority at a local level, but we have a Republican supermajority at the state level, and neither one of them seem like the stuff that the Republicans handle, women are not doing too well. And unfortunately, there's some of the local stuff when it comes to evictions and homelessness, that a lot of it is women and single mothers facing this. Our local government hasn't done very well. And so that, I think
in protecting women.
And really telling that story is like, we're not just like trying to keep you out of trouble here. The issue really is bipartisan.
Yeah.
And I think that's why building collective power and finding common cause with people who you think you might not agree with is so important right now. Because as long as we're like, oh, I'm not homeless, I don't need to show up for that. Or I'm not over there, but these issues are intersected.
Yeah.
And if all of us showed up around these issues, we would have much more power than if we just selected the issue that we feel impacts us right now. If I can get you who lives in Marion County to care about those rural communities with no birthing hospital, and if I can get them to care about the fact that, a lot of women can't even get to the many hospitals around here or get the kind of service they need, then we can all work together on the issue.
We had a young Black woman last night, basically kind of asked, like, with the way that we're treated, with the way that we don't get the things that we want, especially out of our elected officials, like why even vote? Like why even care? Why show up, right? And I was telling her one of the things that I wish we would really, really drive home in our communities, and something that I'm working on now, is presence comes before power. Always. And so if we're not, so right now in the places that they allow us presence, right? If we are not giving presence, we are not building power. And because it cannot come before the other. And I think that's it's a challenge. because it takes a lot of effort on the front end of just even like, for instance, like let's say for funsies, you don't care, but still show up because there's just your presence brings a level of power in the room, you know? And there's I think often about how we start to shift that mentality around those things, because I tell them, like, presence means that you can be in the room, you can be at the meeting, but power means you have control over what happens after that meeting. And we talk so much about building power, but we don't talk enough about, but that starts with presence. That starts with showing up for each other.
Who are you holding accountable if you don't show, if you don't vote, if you don't show up? Because, you know, if women are 52% of the Central Indiana population, we're not half the legislature. We're not half of all the city councils in Central Indiana. We're not half of most of the boards. And so where's our power if we're not showing up? We need to be voting. We need to be making our voices heard. We need to be running for office. I'm glad to see so many women running for office. And I don't care which side you run on.
Me either.
We need a presence. We need a presence in
Everywhere.
the legislature. We need a presence everywhere. You know, what's the saying? Women need to be everywhere decisions are being made, and we're not.
And that type of presence is, it's not just going to the polls, but after you get your candidate in, you are their supervisor. And even good employees need supervision.
People don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect.
Exactly.
Yes.
And politicians don't, even good or bad, don't tend to be great employees, so they need the extra supervision.
Right. And that, man, I keep going back to our conversation last night. It was so good, and I feel like it plays into this so much. But I was telling people, like, when I'm talking to folks, especially about elected officials, because, you know, we have a private relationship sometimes with elected officials. You know, I like you as a person, that's fine. But then we have a very public relationship that, I'm sorry, but it is very transactional. I'm very much so giving you my vote because I have very specific things that I want and expect of you. And if I don't get those things from you, yes, I will remove my vote. That is, yes.
And that's okay.
And that is okay.
As it should be.
Because it's their job. It's their job,
Yeah.
and as us, the citizens, we are their supervisor. Friday I had chicken wings with an elected official that I've actually said the stupidest stuff I'd ever heard in my life on this podcast, and I don't regret saying it because it's true. But
it's true.
But you know, sometimes you can like the person and also say, well, you know, you did some stupid stuff there.
You did some stupid stuff, yeah. And you could not be, this is the thing too, you could be great in other spaces and just not be a great elected official. That is also okay. That is, you do not have to be, there's different types of leadership. There's different types of spaces, obviously lots of different sectors that you could be in, and not everything is for everybody. We're finding our place, and if you cannot effectively represent people, you should not be in those seats. And you can get mad at me, you can hate me, whatever, but it's just true. I mean, you wouldn't want a podiatrist doing heart surgery. And I think,
and they're both needed, but
they're both needed,
but not for heart. Podiatrists should not be doing heart surgery.
Period. And that's and you are very needed because, boy, you get something up with your feet, and you're definitely gonna go want that. You don't want the heart surgeon, right? So it's not to like an importance game or a value game. It's just finding like that right fit, so that we're effectively serving and pushing our folks forward.
And that goes for me too, and the Women's Foundation. We are, you know, not my Women's Foundation. We belong to the women and girls in Indiana. So, you know, if I'm not doing a good job, okay, can you call me and tell? Like, you don't have to say it on here first. You could call me and tell me, and then like we pull me aside. Can we have like a little performance meeting, and then you can say it on here? But yes, somebody needs to tell us.
Well, and you know what's funny about that is like relationship brings that. But they don't focus on building relationships, and then they hate that leaders go, it's like, but you said this dumb stuff in public, but you don't want nobody to respond to it in public.
I mean, especially some of the situations, like, you know, we've said, hey, you know, you probably shouldn't go there or do that, or
I can't
be
tell
involved with that.
Cannot tell y'all how many conversations we have, me and Wild both, on the phone, through email, through text. Don't do that. Don't say that. Do this instead or that instead. Like, we are literally free consultants out here. And what do? Whatever.
Do it anyway. Hey, do it. I mean, I've sent emails with technical information about data centers to our counselors.
Yep.
And they still get on there and say something dumb like,
crazy.
I don't know what to do. It's like, look, I'll
look upon.
That'll be on our next episode.
I know. So I did want to ask, and I feel like this is kind of a good moment to ask this. Like, what should communities demand from philanthropic institutions right now? And not as a favor, but as accountability.
Well, I think it's going back to what we've talked about before, is demanding that we listen. Now more than ever, to understand, because this is even the worlds that we have today isn't even the one we had a year ago.
Yes.
And it's quite different than the one 2 years ago. And even with all the data we might have at our fingertips, like, we can't know how fast these things are changing on the ground. It's only through authentic relationship with people with our constituency, that we actually are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So if there is a funder and you don't feel like that, like, if you don't feel like there is a connection or a way to communicate with them and let your voice be heard, then that's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we represent you.
Right.
We're serving you.
Right. I think that gets lost a lot. I feel like a lot of times we feel like, oh, they're serving like other interests or boards or, you know, whoever else has some kind of impact or say in whether they keep their job or not, or, you know, like, I feel like the people get lost a lot in that process.
And I also say, you know, invest in figuring out how we work. Yeah. Because I think sometimes, which is why relationships are important.
Yeah.
Because I hope that, for instance, we have the kind of relationship where if you see me do something stupid, and you might, that you'll at least give me grace and know I was doing the best I can, but also that I can have approach that with humility and say, I messed up, and we can have a conversation about it. But it also might mean that I understand something about my situation as a funder that you don't know.
Yeah.
And so how can we talk together so we don't immediately jump to, what's she doing? And then I'm like, and why are they yelling at me?
You're right.
Yeah.
It's building those relationships so we can get the grace, you can get the knowledge, and we can continue to work together. Because with your friends, you do that.
Yep.
Friend says something stupid, you say, girl, that was stupid. And then you keep going and you keep working together. We need those kind of relationships.
I do that with elected officials. I can show you 3 text messages now with 3 different elected officials where I said, super disappointed by that. Super disappointed. And I'll put it in all caps too and put the little, the where out face. But I can't, I think it's the way that folks respond to. I think a lot of times they expect more from like community leaders than they do people who actually hold these seats.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that's crazy to me because it's like when you make a decision that is impacting our lives, I think it's reasonable to assume that we'd have some kind of emotional response to that. It's a big deal. And so I think maybe grace both ways, like grace and understanding both ways.
One of the principles. Here's this great book. It's called The Uprising in Women's Philanthropy, and it was written by all of these women, many of them Black and brown and queer women, who kind of were at the roots of the feminist funding movement. And one of those things they say about feminist philanthropy is being in relationship with and funding at the intersections of social justice and activists, making sure activists and community organizers are well supported. But that requires having a relationship and working together on issues, but also understanding with any given issues, you need the activists who are pushing. You can often say things that you can say stuff that other people can't say.
Right.
You need the people who are working on the inside. You need the people with money. You need the service providers. You need all of those people.
Yep.
And I don't understand what it's like to be a community, or I don't do that. Like, I don't know how to do that. I can't show up and do that. And I can't say those things if I'm going to hold this position.
Exactly.
But from the same side, you don't have to sit in my boardrooms. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to provide service every day for some of these people. Like, those people see something different.
Yep.
So how do we give each other grace and know that we don't know everything, but still find common cause and move this forward?
Yeah, I think, and that I think it happens through growing relationships intentionally, right? Especially when you're elected or hired to serve people, they shouldn't have to hunt you down.
Yes.
You know, like these are the people that you serve. You should be extending that hand to them. Yeah. And I think that's the challenge, because I think that's the rub. It's literally to what you just said. When we are the ones providing direct services, like we're the one looking at the tears on people's face. Like we're the ones, and this is a real situation where my neighbor comes in our front door and collapses in our arms because her grandson just got killed. It's just like we feel that immediately, and then like it's very hard to translate that into, well, I think you should. It's like, y'all, like no, it's gonna sound and look a whole lot like, yo, whatever you're doing with gun violence ain't working. It's not working.
But the extra pressure, and the extra pressure, especially if you're philanthropic leaders in space of color, is that we're part of those communities too. Yeah. It's not like the Black men and Black women who are working in philanthropy aren't also having those experiences. They're having those experiences too. And then they're carrying that and having to sit in spaces where they can't be nearly as outspoken about what's going on and what they might be experiencing in their own lives. And I think that I hope it influences how we move in a positive way. Yeah. I hope it makes me smarter about caregiving, the fact that I'm a caregiver. I mean, my husband was diagnosed with early onset dementia. Oh, wow. So I'm caregiving every day. And I realize, even though I have a lot of privileges in many ways, it's still the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Yeah. I also know a lot of women, especially Black and brown women, because I've seen the number. I say that because I've seen the statistics, have it a lot worse. Yeah.
I mean,
no, I love that. Yeah. I think for us, we want to see that show up in the decision making. Like, let's see that then. Like, let's see that real life, what you're experiencing, what you're feeling too, as a Black man, as a Black woman in this community. Let's see that show up in your decision making. I think that helps build some of those bridges, when somebody breaks that. And I don't think you have to be necessarily outspoken to kind of break that code for a second and just be like, listen, I can't do this because I know so-and-so who's going through this, or I have felt this, I guess like they want us to humanize them rather than them humanize yourself. Like show us that you're connected, not just in words, but like in how you show up. Like I think that's, and I'm not arguing this, because this is something we do on a regular basis. Like we have these conversations. We had
this conversation in the commute, because also when you're in those spaces, very often only in those spaces, there's a level of I don't know how, not knowing how vulnerable you can be. Yeah. Even because, are you going to talk to, if you tell me, Tamara, I can't do this, am I going to turn around and go on Instagram? She said,
and see, that's why. Yeah.
She can't do this because they're, so how do we get to a point where we see the humanity in each other?
I think there's balance in everything. Because I feel, because there's 1,000 conversations that I have that don't. So and this is my style. I don't put personal conversations on social media. That's my style though, and I can't speak for everybody, because we know there are some folks. Wild doesn't typically do that either.
I never do that.
That's what I'm saying. So, but there are some folks that move a little more on the fray that are that will do that. So yes, no, 100%. I think there is a way, and I think there's work to be done on both sides of that for sure, without question. I do wish we did that better, and maybe that looks like, maybe we do need to have this conversation in community. I think there's some folks that I couldn't care less about what they just in truth. But most folks though, I do give a lot of grace to. One of the things that I've been moving with, and I told Wild saw this some of my close friends, but it's like I've been trying to share truth with mercy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's not grace, you know, but the first step is sharing truth with mercy though. Like being not saying the thing, but just saying the thing in the way that isn't not recognizing that they're still just a human.
Yeah.
You know, that we're all still just humans. We're all still just out here in some capacity trying to do our best, right? Whether the intentions are right or wrong or the focus is off. I think we are still trying to do the best we know how in the moments. And I think this is why I brought up discovery earlier, because I think it doesn't really challenge our viewpoints or what's possible until we see something that's happening in a different way. And I think that a lot in politics, I think a lot of people uphold these old harmful ways of doing things purely because that's what they've seen.
Yeah.
It's worked for other people.
Lack of experience and lack of data. And when I look at you as a Black woman in philanthropy, and I see Black people, period, in philanthropy, that at the end of the day, most philanthropy is white dominated.
Yep.
And whether you're the leader of the organization or not, typically the board ends up. How do you navigate that challenge that oftentimes the board members and sometimes the families don't have the experiences that you have, or the experiences that probably the people that you're serving? Like, how do you bring them along and get them not just proximate to community, but actually bring them into the work?
I think it's about looking at people's humanity. I'm just sharing. I'm sharing what I've learned, you know, and I believe, you know, very often when I talk to women, they say they want to help other women. They tell me what their values, what their interests are, and I'm sharing with them what I know to make their giving better. And that's all I can do. I also think I've got the best board in Central India. I have a fantastic board.
Sounds like it.
And we have worked very hard to have a cross-section of women from a lot of different spaces with a lot of different experiences who can come together. Which is another thing. Too many boards don't have enough women on them and enough people who are proximate to the experiences of our constituency. And we do have that on our board, because you can't have people who have never touched any of the issues that you're dealing with as your leadership.
Right.
So I'm very excited. You know, Dr. Nicole Wilson is our board chair right now. Okay. And that, you know, as someone who is at IU Health, there's no one who understands, you know, a lot of these health issues that are number one on women's, you know, minds right now than she does. And it's important to have that. It's important to have people like Beatrice Beverly, you know, who is working so closely with communities on a bunch of different ideas, to have both of those people at the table when we're making decisions.
So I know we're at our hour mark, and I don't want to, but I do want to ask this: if you could challenge Indiana leaders, business, political, nonprofit, faith leaders, whoever, with one call to action for our women and girls, what would it be?
Listen to women, realize we exist, listen to us, and invest in us.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Anything else you got?
And also vote.
Okay.
If you don't like how things are going, always show up.
Yeah.
Show up and vote.
Yeah. And the things that you do like, show up to preserve.
Yes.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, if you find that one politician that you feel is in the community and is doing the work, make sure you go and support that person, because I guarantee you there are people that want that person out.
Yep.
You may not be be able to find a perfect candidate, but you're going to get one of them. Yeah. So you better choose. You should choose.
And I think most of us have dated or have kids and baby mamas and baby daddies. They weren't the perfect, and you knew they wasn't perfect. You knew they wasn't perfect, but you know, you made it work for however long. So understanding politics is the same thing.
I was Jared looked at me because listen, I'm gonna clarify. Calm down. I'm gonna too much dip on my chip. Listen, I'm gonna clarify. No, I tell people all the time. They're like, oh, well, you're not gonna agree with somebody. It's like, listen, I've been married for almost 16 years. Trust me, I understand. I disagree with him every single day, and it has not stopped the love. It has not stopped the fact that I want to spend my life with him. It has not stopped us from building together. So it's like, it's more complex than we just don't agree.
25 years over here.
You see?
Sometimes you can disagree multiple times a day. Once an hour.
Yes.
Sometimes, right?
Yes. And so that's, I think we're just trying to find matches, right? Matches don't mean it's perfect. Matches just means it's it's like mismatched socks. They both go on your feet. They both fit in the shoe. They, whatever. They don't have to be
what's the problem?
You know what I mean? Don't have to be the same thickness. They don't have to be the same color or pattern or any of that.
And it's better than having one sock on.
Right. It's better than having one sock on. Facts. So I want to thank you so much for your time today. First of all, I had high expectations. Yes. I had high expectations for this conversation, but this certainly exceeded those. Great. Yes, it was so great. The whole time I was thinking, oh, we have to bring her back. Like, we have to bring her back, and we have to talk about more things. But please let folks know how they can support the work, contribute, connect with you all.
Please go to inwomensfoundation.org. And please go and look at those listening sessions that kick off on May 12th, because we want to hear from you.
I'm excited. And we have one here.
We have one here coming up in June. We'll be doing another Night of 100 Women at the Biltwell. So we hope to see you there.
Awesome. I'm super excited about that. And thank you all so much for watching us today. We have more exciting interviews coming up. Super excited about that. And as always, y'all, show up, stay informed, get out of your emotions, stay fact-based, and let's create, positive change in our communities. We appreciate y'all. Peace.
Peace.
How it is.